Right, this video is for Broward College Health Science Bootcamp. We're going to be converting between metric and US units. Before you complete these notes, you should have read the chapter on measurement. And it's also helpful to have watched the videos and done the notes for US to US units and metric to metric units. All right, so there are conversion factors between metric and US. So you saw when we were using US units, we did multiplication and division, right, with a clever form of 1. And in the metric system, you could do that, or you could recognize which direction you're moving and just move your decimal because the metric system is based on powers of 10. When you're converting between the US and the metric system, first of all, there's going to be a lot of fractions and decimals, and it's generally best to use the multiplication by a clever form of 1. So here are the conversions. For length, we know that an inch is 2.54 centimeters, a foot is 0.305 meters, etc. And then for weight, we know that 1 pound is 0.45 kilograms, 1 ounce is 28 grams, a kilogram is 2.2 pounds. This one you use a lot. 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. And then volume, convert between quarts and liters, ounces and milliliters. This one you use a lot. Liters and quarts. So we've got all sorts of conversions, right? So we're going to use the multiplication and division method where you're multiplying by a fraction, which is a clever form of 1. So let's convert 120 pounds to kilograms, right? So if you have a patient come in and you say, how much do you weigh? And they say, I weigh 120 pounds. The medicine you give is normally in something like milliliters per kilogram. So if you want to give medicine, you have to know how many kilograms they weigh before you can dispense the medicine properly. So pounds to kilograms is a big one. You're going to use it a lot, right? So I have 120 pounds. So I'm going to times and divide. I need pounds on bottom. So the measurement that I'm going to use is 1 kilogram equals 2.2 pounds. Why am I opting for this instead of 1 pound equals 0.45? It's really either way. In fact, it might actually be easier to use 1 pound equals 0.45 kilograms. Why do I say that? Well, pounds are on bottom. So when you're dividing, it's easier to multiply than it is to divide. So here, I would put 1 pound on bottom, because then I'm just dividing by 1, and 0.45 kilograms on top. That's a much easier conversion than trying to divide by 2.2, because when you're dividing by hand, it takes, it's a lot of steps. Multiplying by hand, I think, is a little faster. So what math are we doing? Well, pounds cancels. There's just a 1 on bottom. So the math I need to do is 120 times 0.45. So now I have to do this, right? I'm going to do it the regular way. So I'm going to come over here and let's say 120 times 0.45. So remember, when you're multiplying decimals, you just write the numbers, multiply normally, and then count how many decimal values there are. So in this one, there's 2 decimals, right? That 0.45 has 2 decimal spaces. So I know in my answer, I'll have 2 decimal spaces. But first, I'm going to do the multiplication. So 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 2 is 10. carry the 1, 4 times 1, or sorry, 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. Now I'll multiply by 4. So 4 times 0 is 0, 4 times 2 is 8, and 4 times 1 is 4. And I'll add down 14. So I have 5400. Now this had 2 decimal places. 120 had no decimal places. So I need 2 decimal places in my answer. So my decimal will go right here. And that's nice because 0.00 you can just leave off. So my answer would be 54 kilograms. So if somebody comes in and says, hey, I weigh 120 pounds, you do the math and you're like, okay, that's 54 kilograms. Let's try converting 54 centimeters to inches. 54 centimeters to inches. So I have 54 centimeters times and divide. I need centimeters on bottom and hopefully inches on top. So I do have this conversion here. 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. Now we don't have anything else, right? We don't have another one that's like, oh, 1 centimeter is this decimal value of inches. So this one we didn't have a choice on, right? 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. So the math that we're going to end up doing is, well, centimeters cancels. So we have to do 54 times 1 over 2.54. So 54 divided by 2.54. Now what I would do to make these numbers easier is first kill your decimal by multiplying by 100. But remember, whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So that gives you 5,400 over 254. Now, both of those are even, so we can start dividing down. So one trick here is when you have to do division on paper without a calculator, what you're going to do is you can make your numbers smaller by dividing them both by the same number. So let's divide both of these by 2 because they're definitely both even. So let's see, 2 goes into 5 one time, or 2 times, sorry, with 1 left over. 2 goes into 14 7 times, and then 0, 0. And then 254, that would be 1. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 5 twice with 1 left over, so 127. So we need to do 2,700 divided by 127. Now 2,700 is even, 127 is not. 2,700 is divisible by 3, 127 is not. And 2,700 is divisible by 5, right, because it ends in 0, but 127 is not. So here we're stuck doing the long division. So let's go over here, we'll do some long division. 2,700 divided by 127. And just over here, I'm just going to write 127 times 1 is 127. 127 times 2 would be 254. All right, keep that in mind. So 127 goes into 270 twice. So that was 254. Subtract. So now 270 minus 254 is 16. We'll bring that 0 down. So how many times does 127 go into 160? Just once. And that makes 127, and we'll subtract 33. Now the directions say round to 2 decimal places. So we need to do 3 decimal places and then round to the second. So remember, rounding, you need the next decimal. So we're going to put a decimal with a 0, and we're going to bring down a 0. We'll put a decimal upstairs in our quotient. So now how many times does 127 go into 330? Well, still twice, right? So that would be 254. We'll do that subtraction. So we'll borrow here. That makes 6. We'll borrow here. That makes 7. So 76 left over. We'll bring down another 0. So now we have 127 into 760. All right, let's put some more. Let's add 127 a couple times over here. So 254, that would be 381 if I add 127. And then 127 times 4. So I would add another 127. So 507. Sorry, 508. And then 127 times 5. So again, I'm just adding 127 again. So 15, 3, 6. So 635. And let's do 127 times 6, which again, I'm just adding another 127. That gives me 12, 6, 762. Ooh, too much. All right, so how many times does 127 go into 760? Just 5 times. And when I do that math, it's 635, and I'll have to subtract. So I'll borrow from here. That makes 5, 2, 1, 125. So now I need a third digit down here to 0. So now, how many times does 127 go into 1,250? Well, I can say without a doubt the answer is 9, because 127 times 10 would be 1270, right? So I know that this will be 9. Now, normally we would do the multiplication, we would get it down here, and we would subtract and keep going. But let's look at these directions. It says round to 2 decimal places. So to round to 2 decimal places, you need 3 decimal places, and you're going to break and look to the right. So to the right is a 9, which tells me to bump up the 5 to a 6. And that's rounded. So my answer would be 21.26. And the unit was inches. Let's try another one. 175 pounds to kilograms. So I'm starting with 175 pounds. I need to get rid of pounds and go to kilograms. Now again, there's 2 different conversions that you can do. You can do 1 kilogram on top, and 2.2 pounds on bottom. But as you can see, division takes a while. The other conversion, which again will benefit you to memorize, is that 0.45 kilograms is 1 pound. This way we're doing multiplication, which again, if you've followed these videos, the multiplication is a little bit faster than division. So the pounds cancel, kilograms are left, and I need to do 175 times 0.45. Technically over 1, but over 1 is silly. So now I'm going to go in my margin and I'm going to do 175 times 0.45. Since 0.45 has 2 decimals, my answer will have 2 decimals. And I'm just going to do this one by one. So 5 times 5 is 25, carry the 2. 5 times 7 is 35, 36, 37, carry the 3. 5 plus 3 is 8. Now I'll move over and I'll do the 4. 4 times 5 is 20. So 20, carry the 2. 4 times 7 is 28, 29, 30. Carry the 3. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. I'm going to add those. 5, 7, 8, and 7. And because there are 2 decimals total, there'll be 2 decimals total. So I'll put my decimal here. See how much faster that multiplication is? So 175 pounds is the same as 78.75 kilograms. And there's no need to round because that was the final answer. Okay, let's convert 3 gallons to liters. So let's look here. Do we have gallons and liters? No. We have quarts and liters, which is helpful. So now think back to your US measurements. Let's get from gallons to quarts. So you may need to reference the US to US conversion notes, but what we know from that is 1 gallon is 4 quarts. So now gallons have canceled and I've made it to quarts. Why did I do that? Well, I have a conversion here for quarts. 1 quart is equal to 0.95 liters. Now quarts on top and quarts on bottom, sorry, that should be a times. Quarts on top, quarts on bottom cancel. So look on the bottom, all we have is ones. That's awesome. So what's the math that's going to happen? We need to do 3 times 4 times 0.95. So we'll do 3 times 4 first. That makes 12. So I need to do 12 times 0.95. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do that math. 12 times 0.95. 2 decimals in total. So my answer will have 2 decimals. 5 times 2 is 10, carry the 1. 5 times 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. And then 9 times 2 is 18, carry the 1. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 1 is 10. So I add these down, and I have 1140. 2 total decimal places means 2 total decimal places. So my decimal will go right here, and I can have my answer, 11.40. So 3 gallons is about 11.40 liters. Convert 88 kilograms to pounds. So I'm starting with 88 kilograms, and I need kilograms to pounds. So let's look back here. In this case, it's better to use 1 kilogram equals 2.2 pounds because the 1 is going to go on the bottom, which is nice, and then the 2.2 is going to go on the top. Kilograms are going to cancel, so the math that's happening is 88 times 2.2. So I'll go over here and I'm going to do 88 times 2.2. So 88 times 2.2. So 2 times 8 is 16, carry the 1. 2 times 8 is 16, plus 1 is 17. 2 times 8 is 16, carry the 1. 2 times 8 is 16, plus 1 is 17. So 6, 13, carry the 1. I'm adding 9, 1. So I have 1936. Now in this one, 2.2, there was only one decimal, so there will be only one decimal in my final answer. That decimal will go here. So my final answer is going to be 193.6, and we were converting to pounds. Let's convert 10 kilometers to miles. So we're starting with 10 kilometers. We need to get rid of kilometers. Let's see if we've got kilometers to miles. Hey, we do. Booyah. Check this out. 1 mile is 1.61 kilometers. All right, so 1 mile is 1.61 kilometers. Kilometers cancels, but unfortunately we have another division problem, which is okay. So on top I'm doing 10 times 1, which is just 10, and on bottom I have 1.61. So 10 over 1.61. Let's kill the decimal by multiplying by 100 on top and bottom. So that's going to be 1,000 divided by divided by 161. Not the nicest thing to divide, but it is what it is. So we're going to come over here, and when we do this problem, you'll notice that I like to write some of the multiplication down. So 161 times 1 is 161. Now, to do 161 times 2, you could actually do that math, or you could just add 161. So that would give me 322. And if I wanted to do 161 times 3, let me leave a little space here. Ooh, sorry. 161 times 3, I'm going to add another 161. So it'll give me 384. So 483. And then 161 times 4. So 414. 644. And then 161 times 5. Again, I'm just adding 161, so 5, 10, 8. And then let's add another 161, so 161 times 6 be 6, 6, 9. Okay, well, good news. We could do our division problem now. So I have 1,000 divided by 161. And we know that it can go in about 6 times. That makes 966. And when I do that subtraction, I get 434. So now I need to tack on a 0. So I can put a decimal place and then tack on another 0. So I have something to bring down. So how many times does 161 go into 340? Well, twice. That makes 322. So we'll subtract that. With the leftover of 18. And tack on another 0. Remember to round to 2 decimal places. You need to do the math to 3 decimal places and then do the rounding. So that would make 1, right? That would make 161. And then bring one more down. 190 would be 161, which you could do the subtraction, but we don't care, right? Stop. Why don't we care? Because we're rounding to 2 decimal places. So we break here, we look to the right, that boxed off 1 tells me to keep. So my answer is about 6.21 miles. Now think about that. Has anybody ever run a 10K? That means it's 10 kilometers. And if you like when I asked my husband, how long is this? He'll say, oh, it's about 6.2 miles. Well, there's the math that goes along with it. All right, let's try one more. Convert 8 pounds, 15 ounces to kilograms. Okay, well, 8 pounds, 15 ounces, that's like a mixed number, right? So we need to either put it all into ounces or all into pounds. Let's look at what we've got here. Let's put it all into pounds, because otherwise we would have to change to grams and then to kilograms. Yeah, let's do that. Let's change to everything to ounces and then change it to grams and then change it to kilograms. Why do I say that? Well, because changing from grams to kilograms is just adding or deleting zeros. We'll have to see on the chart, right, which way we go. So we're going to first convert 8 pounds to ounces. So in 1 pound, there's 16 ounces, which means the math that I'm doing is 8 times 16, which I may need to do that out here. So 16 times 8. So 8 times 6 is 48. Carry the 4. 8 plus 4 is 9, 10, 11, 12, 128. So 8 pounds is 128 ounces. Now, we have a total of 8 pounds and 15 ounces. So 8 pounds, 15 ounces is going to be 128 ounces plus 15 ounces. So let's do that. 128, 138, 143. So we're starting with 143 ounces. Again, you could convert to all pounds or you could convert to all ounces. But you would end up having to divide and you'd have a decimal right off the bat. So let's start with 143 ounces. So 143 ounces, we've got an ounces to grams conversion. right? 1 ounce is 28 grams. So that's nice because there's no decimals happening, right? So now ounces has canceled. So now we also know from the metric to metric that we have kilograms, hectograms, decagrams, and then grams. So we want to go from grams up to kilograms, which means we're going to have to move our decimal right 1, 2, 3 spaces. So let's do this math first, and then we'll move our decimal to the right. Three spaces. No, sorry, it's going to be left 3 spaces. When you go up the chart, you're moving left 3. That makes better sense. Move left 3 spaces. If you didn't remember that, you could say, okay, 1 kilogram is equal to 1,000 grams. That's also from the chart. So that will also work here. Okay, so I'll show you both ways. If I stop at this conversion, right, just going from ounces to grams, the math that I need to do is 143 times 28. So let's come over here and do 143 times 28. So 143 times 28, 8 times 3 is 24, carry the 2, 8 times 4 is 32, 33, 34, 8 times 1 is 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 4 is 8, and 2 times 1 is 2. So if I add these, I get 4,004. So if I come back, this is 4,004 grams. Now, we didn't want grams, we wanted kilograms. So either you know that 4,004 grams, we take the decimal and go 1, 2, 3 to the left and get 4.004 kilograms, right? Or you use this conversion. So we know that 1 kilogram is equal to 1,000 grams. Grams will cancel, and so we would have to do 4,004 divided by 1,000, and that indeed moves the decimal 3 places to the right, so 4.004 kilograms. So both ways, if you remember to go left or right, you can use that, or you can just use the factor. So the conversion factor, 1 kilogram equals 1,000 grams. Now, don't forget that the directions still said round to 2 decimal places. I have to zoom out so far to find that. It still says round to 2 decimal places. So we wouldn't be done if we typed this in. We would probably get it wrong. We need to break here, 2 decimals, look to the right. That 4 tells me to keep it. So my final answer is going to be 4.00 kilograms. And again, that will be really important if you're in an emergency room, or if you're in like a NICU and you have these little babies that you're going to have to give medicine to. If your medicine is prescribed in milliliters per kilogram, you have to be able to change that baby's weight into kilograms.